Welcome in, everyone. Today we are doing another tier list for Tier List Tuesday. As voted by you all, this tier list is going to be Overwatch 2 Best Mercy Pocket Targets. So these are going to be the heroes that are the very best for Mercy to pocket, in my honest opinion. Now, please don't flame me if you think that my opinion is wrong. We are all entitled to our own wrong opinions, but mine are not wrong. This is the definitive end-all be-all tier list. You will never need another tier list because as a professional Mercy main that has hit top 500 a couple of times, I absolutely know who are the best pocket targets. Now, hear me out, chat. There are a few caveats to this tier list that I have decided. Number one, this is not a potential for damage boosting tier list. This is not just a damage boost tier list. This is not just a simple tier list where it's Mercy can work with these heroes. This is if Mercy is to hard pocket a character, as in if she were to stick to this character the entire game, how would she perform? How good is this character with Mercy? Mercy may be good in any situation with these characters, but it may not be optimal. So this is going to be an optimal tier list as what would Mercy best pocket in any given game? Typically, the top of the tier list is going to be characters that you should prioritize pocketing for as much as possible. Characters at the bottom of the tier list should be characters that you should try to avoid pocketing. It doesn't mean never pocket them. It doesn't mean never damage boost, never heal. What it means is there's going to be characters that provide more value rather than others, or characters that don't synergize with Mercy quite as much as others. S tier is going to stand for the very best characters for pocketing. So at the very top is S tier. As you make your way down to D tier is the very bottom tier, meaning the worst to pocket. Doesn't necessarily mean bad. There are no bad pocket targets, but there definitely are better ones. So S tier being better, making your way down to D tier, which is worse, B tier being mid tier. So Ana, in my opinion, Ana is a character that I think out of the supports is middle of the ground. I think I'm going to probably adjust the characters depending as we form this tier list because I am doing, as they say, winging it. So I may change my opinions mid-tier list, but I think Ana is very mid-tier when it comes to pocketing. I don't think she's actually very bad because you can damage boost her hit scan shots. So when they're like, let's say you're playing a team that's very close range. So like, let's say you have like Junker Queen, Reaper, who else is short range? And May, let's say that. And then you have an Ana. I actually, from a long distance, would probably choose to pocket the Ana. I also think damage boosting Ana is actually not too bad whenever she lands asleep, because when she throws her nade deals 90 damage, and it actually does pretty well with damage boost. So I think Ana is pretty good as a pocket target. Also, I think pocketing Ana is never a bad thing whenever she's getting dove. I think keeping Ana alive usually ensures that you win a lot of your games a lot easier. So I think she's very middle of the pack. I don't think Ana's going to do any crazy pop-offs. You don't really see a 5k with Ana typically whenever you pocket her. She doesn't really have an ultimate that really enables like self-plays. So I think she's like middle of the ground where she's not really bad. She positions well like a good hit scan sniper, but she's not really... not the best, not the worst. She's very, like, middle of the ground. I think Ana's, like, a very basic, like, mid-tier. Next up, we have Ashe. I think for me, Ashe is a... how many do I want to have in S tier? That's the question. Honestly, I think Ashe is S tier, regardless. I think Ashe is honestly one of the very best pocket targets in the game. I think the thing about Ashe that makes her so good is she has a mixture of high damage from long range, a good defensive tool to keep herself alive with Coach Gun, as well as AoE damage via Dynamite. I think Ashe is one of those characters that you can get really good value from even if you only damage boost her Dynamite every 12 seconds. I think Ashe is one of those characters that she really pops off with a damage boost because it allows her to kill targets much faster. It reduces time to kill significantly from a safe range. Ashe usually doesn't put Mercy in jeopardy or jeopardize Mercy's life with her positioning because usually Ashe wants to position herself safer. So as a result, I would say with Ashe's high potential burst damage, her high potential AoE damage, as well as a strong ultimate that can be also pocketed pretty well via Bob, I think Ashe is a pretty good S tier target. Next up is Baptiste. I think Baptiste is an underrated pocket target because he is a hit scan damage dealer. I think Baptiste doesn't really have a lot of potential for very crazy high damage output, but I think you would actually be very surprised when you pocket Baptiste at just how survivable he is and just at how much damage he can deal. Now, I think that Baptiste does fall a little bit lower in the tiers just because there are better pocket targets that can pop off better than Baptiste, but I just say if you do have a good Baptiste on your team and he does deal good reliable chip damage via hit scan, I do think that actually out of every hero, if you don't have a hit scan on your team, he can be a very viable target. Next up is Bastion. Now, Bastion is one of those weird heroes that I kind of struggle with because I would say when he's out of his turret form, he's not really the best hero to pocket, but he's not bad. I also think during turret form, he actually is very high potential. Now, I do have a couple problems with Bastion. I think Masters and below, or I think actually below Masters, Bastion is a higher tier pocket target. But I actually think Bastion is one of those lower tiers as you climb in the ranks because his large hitbox can't really be healed by Mercy very well, so he doesn't create good sustain. Now, with that being said, if this were just a damage boost tier list, I think Bastion would be higher up because his damage per second in his turret form is 360. With a damage boost from Mercy, his damage output increases to 450 per second, which melts shields very quickly, melts tanks very quickly. Almost nobody can contest him, but I would say in higher ranks, a lot of people usually quickly burst down Bastion when he is in his turret form, so it's very risky. So I would say and I may change my mind, I would say for that reason, he's probably going to end up being a lower A tier. I don't think he's amazing. I think he's better than Ana and Baptiste as far as pocketing goes, but I would say he's not, like, crazy. He is better, though, I would say, especially because his turret form deals very high amounts of burst damage. Nothing can out-heal him whenever he does his turret form with damage boost. I also think he is pretty good because he's a little bit tankier. He does deal well with, like, sustaining from Mercy. He doesn't get like one shot easily, but I think the problem is because his hitbox is so large, he does die very quickly, especially in higher ranks. So not my favorite target all the time to pocket for Mercy, but he's not necessarily somebody that I would complain to have too often compared to some other pocket targets. So I would say he's probably going to be like low end of A tier. Okay, next up is Brigitte. I would say honestly, I might move her lower. I think right now I'm going to put Brigitte in C tier. Her potential for damage is not that high. I think almost any time there's any other character on the field, you would rather be damage boosting and pocketing another support or another DPS or another tank. I think with Brigitte, the thing about her is like healing her obviously is great because the longer you keep Brigitte alive, the more you start steamrolling your games. But I would say their synergy isn't really the best. Brigitte has very situational heals where they're not super high and bursty. Same with Mercy. So when you're pocketing a Brig, your team usually really loses out on a lot of healing and sustain as well as higher damage boost output. So I think the problem with Brig is if you were to, let's say, hard pocket her, you lose out on a lot of value that another character could bring. But I would say once a Brig does get in the face of another character, damage boosting her and pocketing her is not terrible. But I would just say there's a lot better targets out there, especially ranged targets. Brig doesn't really gain a lot of value until she's up close and up close and personal. So I don't really know. I don't think I'm really that crazy about having a Brig on as a pocket target. It's like okay at best, but not really. Not as high up there. Okay, next we have Cassidy. I would say Cassidy is a hero that I normally would put... I think in the past he was a B tier hero, but I actually think he's going to be higher towards mid to high A tier. I think the thing about Cassidy that I really enjoy about him is he actually has he has a very high potential for damage. And I think what's really special about Cassidy is he does actually have a little bit of higher health, and he does have a dodge roll that reloads as well as reduces incoming damage. So I think the thing about Cassidy that you want to keep in mind is your pocket target having more sustain also really helps with you pushing their damage capabilities. And I think with Cassidy, because he doesn't die as quickly to, like, let's say one-shots or bursting damage, or even things like, let's say, Pulse Bomb, as long as he's high enough HP, I think you actually create a lot more value with them. Cassidy has high damage output. Also, if he gets into tank's face and you're pocketing him and damage boosting him, most likely he can kill the tank alone. Because he uses Fan the Hammer, which is his right click, or his alternate fire, where he bursts all of his damage out. What's really great about Fan the Hammer is if he's in, let's say, a Roadhog's face, if you're damage boosting him, he can Fan the Hammer a Roadhog, and as long as he hits all of his shots, he can dodge roll, which reloads, and then Fan the Hammer again. So he basically unloads everything onto his pocket target, aka he uses all of his bullets. And if he hits every shot, most likely any character is going to completely pass away because of a Mercy pocket. Yeah. So I would say as a result, Cassidy is great. I would say what really stops Cassidy from being S tier is a couple things. I would say number one, the problem with Cassidy is he doesn't have the highest range, although Mercy's damage boost does increase his range by a little bit because damage boost essentially increases your effective range because of fall-off damage. His fall-off damage is pretty significant at certain ranges, and he's like a very mid-range, mid to short-range hero. So I'd say the thing about Cassidy is you do extend his range by slight bit with damage boost to create the same damage value of his maximum range. But I'm not really... I think because he doesn't have as much of a high potential for long-range damage, he's not as strong, because if you go up against like a good Ashe, Widowmaker, Sojourn, Hanzo, I would say Cassidy can't really outcompete them as long as they're outranging him. So that's where I would prefer to have another hero, but I'd say he's definitely great, not bad, not the best. Doomfist. So if you're hard pocketing a Doomfist, this is obviously with... Okay, I would actually say Doomfist is kind of an underrated pocket target, but there is one thing about Doomfist that I really do not like, and what knocks him down a peg. It's his ultimate. Doomfist players do not know how to, like, stop themselves from using their ultimate when they see a Mercy icon on their screen. In fact, I'd actually go as far to say I think Doomfist players have a specific hatred for Mercy players, even on their team, to the point that they want to ultimate when a Mercy's on them just so they can get the Mercy killed. I said it. I personally think Doomfist players hate Mercy so much that they want to get killed. So they ultimate and leave her alone. So if you're hard pocketing a Doomfist, which means like you are sticking with him, he does pretty good damage, and I think his slam and his punch are really good with damage boost. I think his mobility is a little bit too high for Mercy to keep up with it, which I think is really ironic considering Mercy's supposed to be a mobility hero. That's why I think she should be reworked, which this is going to be my self-promo right now because of Doomfist and other characters. Please check out my Mercy rework video. I will be linking it somewhere around here. Will be linked to my Mercy rework video, which will allow Mercy to keep up with Doomfist. But until, you know, the Blizz devs listen to my delusions and create a new rework for Mercy's movement, we are stuck with what we have, and it's not enough to keep up with Doomfist. So as a result, he is going to be in C tier. I think he's going to be higher than Brigitte because he has a higher potential damage output, but because of his ultimate, I think it knocks him down a peg. And he doesn't have quite as much consistent chip damage as other characters, so he's not terrible. I actually think he would be higher if his ultimate wasn't Kaka with Mercy, because it literally takes away a flight target and leaves Mercy alone. So as a result, I think Doomfist is lower. Next up is D.Va. I would say before D.Va wasn't a crazy pocket target, but I actually think D.Va is really good now. I would say she's going to be... I would actually say... Ooh, this is tough because, like, I don't think D.Va is, like, let's say, better than most pocket targets. I think you can get more value. But I would actually say she's either going to be top of B tier or low A tier. I think Bastion is better as a pocket target, but I think the thing about D.Va is pocketing her produces a lot of value because number one, it allows her to really take space. Number two, pocketing a D.Va, especially with your heal beam, allows her to not have to defense matrix as much chip damage, which allows her to save it for more critical abilities and ultimates. Number 3, I think damage boost is actually really good on D.Va now because they've increased her damage to stupid amounts. And this is where we segue into my hashtag of the day. Hashtag, please nerf D.Va. Please. Blizz devs. Who do I have to give sloppy toppy to like get them to nerf D.Va? Because she's so strong right now. Like, nerf D.Va, please. But she's actually really good. Her damage is very high. So I think actually damage boosting D.Va when she dives a target makes them die like that so quickly. So as a result, I think D.Va is B tier. I think what keeps her a little bit lower, number 1 is I think that her ultimate doesn't really produce the most value with a Mercy Pocket, doesn't really produce any value with a Mercy Pocket. I think also her range is very limited, so you have to really commit to healing D.Va and pocketing her when you pocket her. I also think D.Va isn't the strongest pocket target just because she does put you at risk because she is a frontline hero that is close range, so you really run the risk of dying. But with that being said, I do think that she has pretty good potential. Echo. Echo. I think Echo is like a low S tier hero to pocket. She doesn't have the craziest range damage, but I think Echo, what she makes up for like lack of insane range, she makes up for in versatility. You can really use Echo in almost a variety of any circumstance. You can use her with a dive. So if your heroes or if your team goes all dive, you can use Echo to basically essentially dive with her. She's really good with poke as well because she doesn't deal like consistent long range like burst damage, but she can poke pretty well. I think Echo does really well with pocketing because she's a flight hero, so obviously Mercy's Guardian Angel combos really well with flight. I think she also does really well with sticky bombs and her focus beam, if that's what it's called. Really good overall. I would say she's very flexible. Her ultimate is pretty good to pocket because most of the time she can pump out an ultimate very quickly with a Mercy Pocket depending on who she picks. I would say overall she's really good as well because she's pretty survivable. Because of her ultimate, she doesn't die easily, so you don't put Mercy in as many compromised positions. So overall, I would say Echo's pretty strong. She has good mobility, she's good damage, high burst potential, very versatile overall. So I would say pretty good S tier. Next up we have Genji. Now this really depends on what rank you are and how good your Genji is and how good you are at keeping up with Genji. I think I've gotten very comfortable at pocketing Genji. Now you have to be very careful because Genji can compromise your position more than a lot of heroes in the game. But if you learn to pocket Genji well, which is not using too many Guardian Angel techs, you use simple Guardian Angels, you play cover very well, and you know when to damage boost Genji for his dash, when he's engaging, knowing when to heal him, I think Genji can be very strong. I also think timing your damage boost with his deflect can be very helpful because damage boost actually does impact deflect damage. So, with that being said, I think he's going to be a mid-A tier. I think he has very high burst potential. I also think comboing Valkyrie with his Nanoblade. I mean, Nanoblade as well, but I would say Valkyrie and Nanoblade is too many ultimates. So I'd say if you don't have Nano, Valkyrie works very well with Blade because you can pocket him from a safe distance while he completely destroys the other team. Yeah, so I would say Mercy works pretty well with Genji. She does a very good job at enabling him. You just have to be very skilled, but I'd say performing optimally in higher ranks, I would say if you have a skilled Genji, Mercy is very helpful for Genji to burst down damage, do some poke damage, keep him alive, and allow him to keep pressure in the back line. Yeah, so pretty good. Hanzo. Hanzo's one of those characters, I think he's very feast or famine. I think you can really pop off where you can really feel like you're starving with this character. I think I'm going to put him a step above Bastion. I think Hanzo is very strong even if he's hitting body shots, but the thing about Mercy pocketing Hanzo was you can allow him to create one-shots and break points, which is very strong. You can't really damage boost his ultimate that well, so it's not really that crazy, but I think what Mercy does really well with Hanzo is she allows him to really burst down tanks as well. I think Hanzo against tanks is very underrated, especially Hanzo Mercy. Honestly, you can just damage boost storm arrows, and if they hit every single storm arrow on the tank, even if it's a damage, or even if it's like a body shot, all body shots, it still deals a lot of damage. So let's just say this is not considering armor. I believe every storm arrow does 65 damage. Now, obviously, it deals 100. I believe it's 130 damage per headshot, but we're just going to deal body shot damage. 65 times 1.25 for the Mercy math is 81.25. I believe he has 5 arrows, so even if Hanzo only hits body shots with a Mercy damage boost, if he hits all of his shots on a tank, he can deal about 406 damage, which is... that's a lot for one ability. 406 damage is like pretty crazy, so... with that being said, that's without headshots, so if he's dealing headshots, that's even crazier. I think a lot of tanks can't, like, survive Hanzo and Mercy duo. Now, that is obviously considering if they hit their shots frequently. But that's where we kind of go into, these are when the heroes are performing optimally, so obviously when Hanzo's performing optimally, he's a pretty good character with Mercy Pocket, but I would say... yeah, he's good, but not the very best. I think he's strong, but I think there's better options. Next is Junker Queen. I think Junker Queen is incredibly underrated as a Mercy Pocket. You typically don't have Junker Queens who are asking for Mercy almost ever. But I'm actually going to say Junker Queen is A tier. I would say she's probably not as strong as a Hanzo Pocket just because... I think Hanzo deals better range damage. But exactly, Scorpio. Damage boosting her ultimate is very strong. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I think Junker Queen is incredibly strong. Number one, healing Junker Queen keeps her alive because she doesn't have a shield. So, and there's a couple layers to this. Typically, Mercy doesn't deal well with pocketing tanks because they have an incredibly large hitbox. So that makes Mercy's heal less effective because Mercy's heal is very low. And it's easy to hit shots on tanks. So with that being said, Mercy's heal doesn't really work well with larger targets because they take more damage, so Mercy can't out-heal it as easily. But if Mercy's healing a smaller target, like let's say a Kiriko, Sojourn, anything that's a little bit skinnier, you know, the Ozempic queens, I think she doesn't have to heal as much because they're not sustaining as much damage. Now, the good thing about Junker Queen is her hitbox is not as large as many of the other tanks, so she doesn't sustain as much damage. Number two, she doesn't have a shield, so it really helps her stay alive. But number three, there's a double whammy with Mercy's damage boost that you guys may or may not know. When Junker Queen deals bleed damage, which bleed damage is her knife damage, her axe damage over time, as well as her ultimate damage over time, bleed damage also heals Junker Queen back as well. So there's a little thing that you can do with Mercy, which is when you damage boost Junker Queen when she's dealing a lot of her damage, not only are you increasing Junker Queen's damage output, you are also increasing her heal and her sustain, so you don't need to heal Junker Queen while you damage boost her for a lot of time. What's also really interesting is Junker Queen has an interesting interaction with Mercy, where even if she's landed, let's say her axe or her ultimate, even if you don't initially damage boost her, and you miss that opening window, although you may not get the burst damage, if you flick your damage boost onto her while she's dealing her chip damage over time, you still are going to be adding damage and healing to Junker Queen's output and her damage output and healing. So it's really interesting because even if she hits her ultimate and you miss the first hit, you can flick damage boost onto her and it'll add on chip damage and chip healing to Junker Queen, which is really helpful. So she's very high damage, high sustain with damage boost, and she doesn't have the largest hitbox compared to other tanks, so she creates a very good damage pocket. Or Mercy Pocket. I also think she does really good because if she's in a 1v1 against a tank or another hero, she deals insane damage at close ranges, and she can engage very quickly. And because she also has Shout, which increases her speed, it also increases Mercy's movement speed, so if you need to make a quick escape, Shout really helps with that. It also gives you extra HP, so if you get shouted, you survive a little bit easier. Also, I would say Mercy deals really well with Junker Queen because Shout adds burst HP to Junker Queen. You don't need to heal her quite as much. So, a lot of different layers to Junker Queen. I think she's very underrated. I think she is a really good damage boost target and a really good pocket target for Mercy. Junkrat is a hard hero for me to rank. I would say Junkrat... it's hard because if we're talking about optimally performing, tier list, he's hitting all of his shots, but let's be honest, because he's such a random kind of projectile hero, he's not going to hit as many shots as an optimized, let's say, Hanzo. So the thing about Junkrat is I think he's going to land somewhere in B tier. I think depending on the player, he could be better than D.Va. I think we'll put him higher than D.Va just because he sustains less damage than D.Va. Excuse me. Now the thing that I don't really like about Junkrat is a couple things. His damage isn't super consistent, especially at a long range. He also doesn't really deal great damage in open spaces. I prefer him more in enclosed spaces, which also Mercy doesn't deal well with closed spaces. You want to typically play Mercy in a more open space, so that way you aren't sustaining a lot more burst damage and that kind of stuff. So with that being said, I would say Junkrat is a high potential, but I would say compared to other heroes, I would rather boost other heroes that have more consistent damage output. But with that being said, Junkrat is really good with damage boost because he deals very high potential damage and burst damage. I would say I also am not crazy about Junkrat because he has a very volatile movement. He can absolutely leave you easily if you're not careful. In addition, his ultimate is something that you can't really damage boost, so he doesn't really produce any value if you hard pocket his ultimate, so it leaves room for, like, I don't know, it leaves you wanting more is what I would have to say. So he's not bad. He definitely is a great pocket, especially if he's landing a lot of hits. His chip damage is really good, but I'd say if you're comparing his frequent damage versus, or like his damage over time versus like the damage of like Cassidy, Ashe, Echo, Genji, I would say they are way more consistent, so they produce more consistent value. So I would say he's good, especially, I mean, he's great if you put him in an enclosed space, or if you put him in like a choke point. You should boost him when he's firing at choke points, but I'd say other than that, he's alright. He's not the best, but he's not bad by any means. I'd say he's probably either low A, high B, but I would say I would rather be boosting a Bastion turret form rather than a Junkrat, personally. Junk higher than Doom? Yeah, I would say yes. Junkrat's not going to leave you like a Doomfist, especially during his ultimate. I also think Junkrat puts you in less danger than a Doomfist. I think Junkrat is also a little bit harder to push into than or it's easier to push into a Doomfist than a Junkrat. Because especially when a Doomfist holds up his block, it leaves you vulnerable more than a Junkrat. If you push into a Mercy that's by a Junkrat, you risk yourself being one-shot comboed by his explosions. I don't know what his abilities are called, I'm sorry. I think that you are more at risk, personally. Next, we're going to Kiriko. I would say, now this is going to be a hot take. I think everybody has a different experience pocketing different heroes. I almost never feel inclined to pocket a Kiriko above other heroes. It doesn't mean that she's bad. I think pocketing Kiri can be really good in certain clutch situations because of her tiny hitbox. I think the problem is you really have to weigh... You have to weigh potential of damage as well as potential for the rest of your team when you're dedicating a pocket to somebody. And keep in mind, this is not me saying Kiriko's a bad target for you to like help or damage boost or heal. Every character can be viable in their own individual circumstances. But I'd actually say Kiriko is probably a C tier, higher than Brigitte, lower than Doomfist. Now, here is why I believe that she is a C tier. Number one, Kiriko has projectile damage, which normally wouldn't be that big of a deal. But the problem with her projectile damage is it's low body shot damage. Its fire rate isn't as good as other projectile heroes. In addition, you have to hit headshots for it to produce high value. Now, the problem with Kiriko is you have to think about if you're pocketing Kiri, what is your team losing out on? So typically, if you're hard pocketing a Kiri, your DPS are losing out and your tank is losing out, which you could make that argument for any support hero. But there are other support heroes that can provide better output of damage if you're to pocket them. So like, for example, Ana is pretty much, in my opinion, better than a pocket than Kiri, because Ana not only has her sleep, her primary fire, which can be hit scan or projectile, and she has her nade. it allows for more offensive output than Kiriko. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying Kiriko doesn't provide enough consistent damage output to warrant a pocket versus other heroes. Not saying she's bad, but it's just for the amount of commitment it would take to hard pocket a Curie, it's not as much value. In addition, I also think Kiriko isn't the best pocket target because if she teleports away, you're screwed. In addition, Kiriko teleport works better when you're at a farther distance from her because then she can teleport to you to safety, and that way you're not constantly together putting yourselves at risk and risking her leaving you. Yeah, I mean, she's not bad. I mean, she's really good if you're like clutching point and you're pocketing her, like let's say it's overtime and you're on like, let's say if you're on Numbani and like you're on that first point and Kiriko's on payload trying to contest and you're like trying to like hold point. Imagine you're like contesting point, your entire team is dead, which maybe they're all dead because you were hard pocketing Curie, but let's just say theoretically she's like on point. You can be pocketing her from a safe distance, and because of her hitbox and her self-sustain, she's really good at staying alive. But other than that, you're not really going to be like winning. If you hard pocket a Curie, you're not going to be like getting that many crazy limbs because her damage just isn't that consistent enough to like really warrant winning with a pocket. Lucio is, I would say, you're hard pocketing Lucio. Number one, I mean, Lucio is like a very wild card hero because he can be really good, but it's kind of the same thing as Curie, where he's like good, but not amazing to damage boost and pocket dedicated. Now, obviously, if you're playing Mercy Lucio, it can be hard for your team, but you're already not really going to be healing much anyways. But really, if you're playing with Lucio, your team is going to be needing a lot more heals, so you should be healing other people. But let's just say you're hard pocketing Lucio. I actually think Lucio is not a crazy bad target to pocket because his mobility is so good. If he gets in the face of an enemy, he can deal really good damage. I'd actually say a little bit better than Curie, just because like Curie, I mean, I'm not saying Curie can't have really good damage potential. I'm just saying like when Lucio gets in your face with a damage boost, it's actually pretty terrifying. And you get thrown around and like manhandled by this Lucio. So it's not terrible, but I would say still how much resource you're going to be losing out on, as well as Lucio can't really peel for you. So like, I'd actually say, with that being said, I'm actually going to lower Lucio. Even though speed boost makes it really fun to play, I think fun you'd be higher. I'd say if you're hard pocketing a Lucio, he can't really peel for you as well. So you're probably going to die if you get dove or looked at. So I actually would say Lucio's higher, but I'd say he's higher than Brig, because Brig just is so limited with her range. You can at least damage boost Lucio from her range, and Lucio can also kind of enable you with his speed boost to really move around. So, yeah. Mei. This is hard for me, chat, because I don't think there's any bad damage boost targets in the game and no bad pockets. But I would probably say Mei is among the worst, some of the worst. Now the question is she better than Brig or worse? I would say she's slightly better, but there's a few things that I despise about Mei, and I'll kind of get into it. Number one, when you're pocketing somebody, you need to also envision that you're only pocketing this person. Let's say you're in the enemy's backline, or you're getting focused and you're pocketing this person. How likely are you to survive and provide high value? Mei is one of the worst pocket targets because her ice block, respectfully, excuse my French, it's shit. That's what we'll say. Her ice block is shit. Because you can't fly to her when she's in her ice block, and then she's not providing any damage output. The amount of times I have died because I'm pocketing a Mei and she ice blocks, gets me killed, and then she dies immediately after because she is not intelligent. Sorry. I love Mei players, but not when I'm pocketing them. Now, with that being said, why I've ranked Mei lower also, ice block aside and how much I hate ice block, and why, and you know, I think the devs should change ice block to make it so Mercy can at least fly to her in her ice block would be great. But with that aside, she doesn't deal great range damage because it's inconsistent kind of like Kiriko damage. I'm not saying it's bad. You can definitely damage boost her icicles and it's like good damage. But like, if you're between like a Mei dealing damage versus even a Baptiste or Ana from a range, I think I would rather be damage boosting a Baptiste. I would say she could be damage boosted more than an Ana, but I would say if you're talking about consistency in like damage value, I would say Mei is a little bit lower. I would say also her damage is very low where when she's in close range, she can be good against like a Genji and stuff. I'm not saying she's bad. I'm not saying she's bad, chat. But if you could be damage boosting a Mei at close range versus a Reaper or a Symmetra or even a Tracer, I think that they have higher potential than her. So she's like low damage, inconsistent from a range. She's like not amazing, but amazing anyways. Now, when she's ultimating, she can be a really good damage boost target because when she's hitting headshots, she is so clean with it. But then again, if she gets an ultimate on somebody and you have an Ashe on your team, why not damage boost the Ashe for the headshots? Or damage boost like your tank or something. I don't know. Like, it's not bad. I'm not saying she's bad, but there are better characters that also will not get you killed while you're pocketing them. I would put Mei above Lucio because I think with damage boost, she can one-tap Tracer, with Tracer being one of the most popular heroes. I would say yes. I agree. But the amount of times I would say, because I'm sorry, Mei is not going to protect you against a Tracer that is on you. Let's be honest, chat. How many times have you ever been like, wow, this Mei saved my life from this Tracer diving me? Nobody ever says that. I'm sorry. If there's ever a Mei that changes my mind, I will literally post a video apologizing to all Mei mains that I've been saved by a Mei from a Tracer. But like, let's be honest. Tracer will gobble you up, especially if you're with a Mei. She's gonna hit that ice block button. You're gone. Like, let's be honest. It ain't happening as often. Now, I do see your perspective, LumiCat. But I would say the consistency of Lucio is higher, in my opinion, and you're less likely to die pocketing a Lucio than a Mei, in my opinion. They're interchangeable. If you have a great Mei, of course she's going to be better than a Lucio to pocket. Just for that, we'll put her above Lucio, but, like, if I'll be honest, I think Mei is, like, worse than Lucio just for the fact that she will get you killed. If you're pocketing a Lucio the whole game, you're more likely to survive than if you're pocketing a Mei the whole game. Because, like, you're gonna get jumped when you're with a Mei versus a Lucio where you at least can get speed boosted and, like really have crazy movement because of speed boost. Why is my nose so itchy? Stop!
You're probably gonna start noticing me itching my nose a lot from this point of the video onwards. To be honest, I have no idea what happened. I think like an incel cursed me or something.
We're just gonna make this...
It was actually mind-boggling and caused a lot of brain rot, so I apologize if I seem incoherent.
Herself. That's the Mercy tier. Moira. See, Moira has so much potential. She has a lot of potential. Moira is a sad case of she could have such high potential. I really love damage boosting her orb. I think her damage is kind of like one of those things that if you're in like a clutch scenario, and there's like a Lucio on point or Tracer on point, damage boosting Moira can be actually better than damage boosting a lot of other heroes that are so aim reliant. I think you can deal a lot of damage by damage boosting Moira. But she's one of those cases that she's lower tier, and why am I saying this? Because of a lovely ability that we call Fade. She's interchangeable. I would say all of these four are interchangeable. Moira's great for Coalescence. Now let's here's the scales. You can damage boost Coalescence. So that's good. You can damage boost her orb. That's great. You can damage boost her primary fire, and that's pretty good. But then you have Fade. Oh, your Moira's getting shot at and you're pocketing her? She fades and you die because you can't fly to her. Because you can't track where she's going. You don't know where she's gonna go. She leaves you. You're dead. They all look at you because now you're standing there awkwardly with your beam on nothing. Literally looking around aimlessly. You are dead because your Moira just left you. I hate Fade. Please. Even if you can't fly to Moira in her Fade, I get it. But please at least let like Mercy's like guardian angel icon be on Moira so you can at least see where she's flying, please. Or like, I mean, Kiriko can teleport to Moira when she's fading, so like, I don't get why you can't fly to her, but like at least let Mercy see where she's going, please. But like, for the sole reason, she would be like significantly higher on this list. I actually think she would be higher than like, maybe, she would be like B tier. Not higher because she doesn't have burst damage and like the damage output would still be pretty low, but it'd be consistent, which is good. But the problem with Moira is you will die when she fades. You cannot prevent it. She cannot burst heal you back up to health. So when she's healing you, you're going to die because you sustained way too much damage. No. We do not hard pocket Moira for that reason. She's good. She's not bad. You can choose to help her in many situations. I'm not saying she's bad. She's great in a lot of situations. But if we are talking about hard pocketing a Moira, you are going to die because she's going to fade. Anyways, I'm getting pressed. I think Orisa's like B tier. She's not bad. I think she's lower than D.Va. I think you could make an argument that Orisa's better than D.Va in some ways. Like you can damage boost her ultimate, which is pretty good. Lets her charge it up faster and kill people quicker. I think her primary fire is really strong. But I think the problem with Orisa, which, I mean, you could say that she's better than D.Va because she's a little pokier. But I think the problem with Orisa is, like, she doesn't really have any abilities that mitigate things like anti-nade and stuff. I also think D.Va can peel for you better if you're pocketing her versus an Orisa. Orisa can't really do much to save you if you're gonna die, versus a D.Va who can at least defense matrix you and, like, fly in the enemy's faces. So for that reason, I would say she's like slightly below D.Va. I can see the argument if you guys are yelling at me about like, if you yell at me in the comments about like, oh, I think Orisa is better than D.Va. Yeah, okay, sure, I agree with you. I also agree that D.Va's better than Orisa. I literally don't have an opinion here. Like, they're pretty equal. I would say D.Va's a little bit better though, just with the current state of how broken D.Va is. I think D.Va has better potential. Pharah. I mean, when you're pocketing a Pharah, there's a reason why people complain about Pharah being so oppressive with Mercy. Pharmacy is strong. I think it's one of the best pockets in the game. Her damage is very high. Her burst potential is really high. The ability to fly is really good. I would say, personally, I prefer pocketing an Ashe a little bit more than a Pharah. Now, here's the thing, chat. You could say anyone in S tier is interchangeable with another. They all can be very good, and it really depends on the player, yada yada. But the problem with Pharah is I think she, like, takes a lot more resources because of her hitbox and her flight. I think also with Pharah, you're more likely to be left behind because of her erratic flight pattern. Versus like an Ashe where you're not really gonna have to worry about getting, like, let's say, left behind. Now, Pharah is one of the best, if not the best pocket in the game, so you definitely could make an argument that she's like the best or the second best behind Echo. But I would say Pharah needs a lot of babying. Thank you for the likes, I appreciate you. I do think that Pharah is a little bit lower though, just because she does sustain a lot more damage. Also, I will put her lower on S tier for one reason especially. Its Rocket Barrage sucks. If I could rate an ultimate as the worst in the game, I would likely rate Rocket Barrage as the worst ultimate in the game. And hear me out.
My non-existent ADHD made me forget to finish the sentence, so I'm gonna finish it here. Rocket Barrage is like one of the worst ultimates in the game because it almost always results in Pharah's death in higher elos, versus many other ultimates that don't really result in the death of the user. So it's pretty much a kamikaze, and risks putting Mercy in a bad position. Not useless, just very situational. Moving on.
Reaper. Reaper's a pretty good pocket target. I actually think people don't talk about him enough. I think Reaper is better than... I would say Reaper's actually not too bad. You could make an argument that D.Va's better than him. I definitely think he's better than Orisa. I think Reaper's nice because he has a little bit of extra health and sustain. Reaper is also good because he has high damage potential, his range is limited, which kind of is unfortunate, but he does have good engagement tools with his newly buffed teleport. Not the best in the game because his range is limited, which is really going to hinder him, but I actually think Reaper is a lot more underrated because when he gets in a tank's face or another DPS's face, his damage is very high and his damage heals him. So when you're damage boosting him, not only does he heal himself more, he deals more damage. He's lethal and he's pretty underrated. Now, I would say B tier is filled with a lot of niche heroes because like they can be interchangeable. I would say a really good Baptiste could be a way better pocket target than a Reaper because of the effective range, but also like a really good Reaper could definitely be better than a really good Baptiste. It just really depends on your perspective. It's very like wildcard, but Reaper could be very good. And for that reason, I think that he is like higher B tier. I think he has a better potential than D.Va because he sustains less damage and has a good health pool and has good escape options. Yeah, so I would say he's a little bit better than D.Va. I might change my mind later. I am an indecisive person, but as of this moment right now when I am posting this video, Reaper is above D.Va. Yes. So next up we have Reinhardt. If you're a Reinhardt main, I would like to hear for glory in the comments, and if you're a Reinhardt hater, let's put hashtag retire the hammer in the comments if you guys don't like Reinhardt. I personally am an advocate for hashtag retire the hammer. I'm tired of Reinhardt players. I'm sorry. They sustain so much damage. They can't do anything when their shield is up. They're not bad, but like, I personally despise pocketing Ryan. I think he might be one of the worst in the game. So Reinhardt, now hear me out. I hear it now. Somebody's yelling, Reinhardt hammer swings are really good to damage boost. Reinhardt fire strike is a really good damage boost. Damage boosting a Reinhardt in his ultimate is really good. You don't know what you're talking about as a Mercy player. I hear you. Damage boosting a Ryan, it can be very strong, but literally damage boosting anybody in the game can be strong. Okay, we'll put him above Brigitte. I think we'll put him above Lucio for his damage output. I think we'll put him above Moira just because he doesn't like fade and leave you. We'll put him above Mei for that same reason that she doesn't ice block, or like he doesn't ice block and leave you. But I think like you could say that he's better than Curie, but like they're interchangeable. I despise pocketing Ryan's for a couple reasons. Number one, you're not gonna out heal anybody who's shooting at him. Number two, when he puts his shield up, girl, you're doing nothing pocketing a Ryan with his shield up. Literally nothing except healing him. And you could literally be playing another hero healing him. Number three, he's like a melee character. You have no business being up in like the melee business because they are going to jump you and there's nothing he's going to do about it. Reinhardt is going to watch you get fly swatted out of the sky and he's going to like say something about for glory, huzzah, I'm a Reinhardt man. I do Reinhardt things. I don't know how to do a Reinhardt accent, but that's my Reinhardt impression. I do not like pocketing Ryan. Doesn't mean he's bad, but like he's not going to be able to help you in many circumstances. And like you'd be better pocketing any other hero in the game. Yeah, so screw Ryan. Roadhog. Hot take, chat. Hot take. I think Roadhog is like a B tier. He's a very like feast or famine character, but I personally think Roadhog is underrated as a pocket for a couple reasons. Number one, he has a one shot, especially if you damage boost him. Number two, if you're heal botting a Roadhog, which I get it, heal bot bad, you're allowing Roadhog to save his heal for specific abilities and ultimates, and kind of similar to Defense Matrix, you're preventing Roadhog from like having to heal off chip damage and waste resources. Although his damage isn't the most consistent on the planet, when he lands a hook, you can allow him to one-shot. You prevent him from like wasting resources with his heal. You also allow Roadhog to take more space because Immortal Roadhog is a thing, and although he sustains a lot of damage, because he has self-sustain and another support that can heal him, and you're healing him, that's really strong. So with that being said, Roadhog is pretty good because Immortal Hog is a very scary thing. Damage boosting his ultimate is crazy good. He deletes tanks, he deletes shields. He's a very scary presence, and you can't necessarily push the Mercy that's pocketing the Hog without having to really manage his resource cooldown. You're really, like, you can't really push a Mercy when she's pocketing Hog as easily because you risk getting hooked and then one-shotted. So it depends. Not the best in the game. There are better targets, but I'd say Hog is pretty underrated. People don't really talk about Mercy with Hog often, but I'd actually say Hog is a more optimal tank to play with Mercy because you can also pocket tier list aside, he's really good because you can kind of leave him alone because he has his heal as well. So you can really enable him to save his heal for momentous, dire, crazy, critical moments. He's pretty versatile. Sigma. Sigma's not a terrible pocket target, but if you're pocketing the whole game, he's like interchangeable with like Roadhog. He's like got good poke damage. Mercy pocket allows him to poke pretty efficiently. When he rocks a target, it's very similar to Roadhog Hook, where if you pocket him, he can definitely kill people in like a one shot. In game, of course. His ultimate is pretty good to pocket. He also has pretty good self-sustain, and his shield is pretty nice. So I'd say he's pretty interchangeable. He's a good pocket target. He's not the best though. There are better pocket targets out there. That's a very common theme of B tier, is like there are better targets, but they're not terrible. Sojourn, easy S tier. I'd probably say she's probably either number 1 or number 2. Probably number 2 after her nerf, but still one of the very best, easily S tier. The thing about Sojourn is she has not the largest hitbox in the game, so she doesn't sustain the most damage. She deals long range damage, she deals spammy damage, and she also deals high burst damage. Take a shot every time I said damage. She also has a really good ultimate to damage boost. Damage boosting Sojourn also allows her to build Railgun Charge very quickly. It speeds that time up. It also allows her to get kills with less Railgun Charge. So she's very strong. She also has good mobility. Her mobility synergizes well with Mercy. Sojourn also doesn't put herself in many compromising positions like other dive heroes, so she does pretty good. Really good with Mercy. I think a lot of Mercy players know this. She's very good. Pocket your Sojourn. You will likely get good value. Soldier 76, I would probably say, is A tier. He's not like the craziest in the game, but he's definitely not the lowest in the game. He's pretty good. He's pretty solid. Soldier 76 is a solid character. He is A tier. I would say he's pretty interchangeable with Genji or even Cass. I would say these three are pretty interchangeable. They're all good for different reasons. Soldier's really good for long range poke damage. He's not quite as consistent at getting kills as, let's say, a Cassidy may be within Cassidy's effective range, but then a Genji can also, it's like, it really depends on the effective range. If you're playing long range, I think Soldier's the best. If you're playing mid range, I think Cass is the best, and if you're playing short range, obviously Genji would be the best. Next, we have Sombra. I'd actually say Sombra is pretty underrated. Mercy, actually, her beam does not fully give away Sombra's positioning. It does give it away a little bit, but if you were to pocket a Sombra the whole game, I actually don't think it'd be completely terrible. Now, I don't think it'd be better than a lot of characters because I think it really interferes with Sombra's playstyle. But I would actually say pocketing a Sombra, I would personally rather pocket a Sombra than a Orisa. More likely, you're going to be pocketing the Orisa more than the Sombra, but I would say... But anyways, Sombra is not terrible to pocket. Your beam doesn't fully give her away, but your playstyle will kind of clash with hers, where she's kind of a flanker and tries to get pokes and get the enemy to turn around. But her damage is actually consistent enough that you can really help her get eliminations if you're pocketing her. Her movement actually isn't so crazy that if you're pretty good, you can keep up with Sombra. So I'd say she's not terrible. I could pocket a Sombra pretty well. Doesn't mean you should. She probably, in reality of... If this was a should you pocket tier list, it's going to be low. But this is just a... If you are going to pocket her, how well could this character perform with the Mercy pocket? And I would actually say pretty well. Symmetra. I think Symmetra is kind of a feast or famine character. I think she's a high B tier. You guys will roast me for this, but like, hear me out. I'm not talking about Symmetra with like her orbs. Her orbs are just okay. I would rather be boosting a Junkrat with her orbs. But hear me out. Symmetra with a pocket, she kind of almost needs it at times because a Symmetra is not going to be able to walk on an enemy team, especially in higher elo, without getting absolutely clapped. But with the pocket, there's a couple things about her that's amazing. Number 1, she burns shields down. Number 2, she can just walk on enemies and almost nobody can out-heal her once her beam is fully charged. Damage boost also increases almost the rate that her beam charges, even though it doesn't. It kind of does because she deals increased damage. So I would say the thing about Symmetra that I really enjoy about her is her damage per second with her beam is a constant. I believe it's like 225 per second or somewhere around there, give or take. That's really strong. And it's consistent damage. And if there's a shield, guess what? She eats it, especially with the damage boost pocket. She does kind of put you in a compromised position, but I'd say do not underestimate the power of pocketing a Symmetra. I don't hear about it often, but when you're like pocketing a Symmetra, you can turn a Symmetra that seems like a throwing like frontliner into like kind of a force to be reckoned with. Because then you're like, do we deal with the Symmetra that's literally walking on us with this laser beam of death? Or do we run away? Or do we focus the tank? Like, what do you do? She does die very quickly, though, so I actually think a good rework to Symmetra, which is a whole other video, could be giving her either some good self-sustain or, let's say, lowering her damage, but giving her... Oh my gosh, I just buffered. But giving her a longer beam so she has more range. I think it's just she's so short range that she dies too quickly. So she either needs more sustain or she needs to, like, have more range. Torbjorn is... I mean, he's, like, alright. I'd probably rather pocket a Torbjorn than a Sombra. You could make an argument that Torbjorn is better than a Sigma. You could make an argument a DPS could be a lot better than tanks for a lot of reasons. But I would say his damage is pretty inconsistent, but he's, like, pretty good. He's not terrible. Don't underestimate a Torb, but I'd say if you're, like, comparing, like, if you'd rather damage boost a Torb versus, like, a Junkrat that's hitting their shots, I'd personally rather boost the Junkrat that's hitting all of his shots. A really good Symmetra I'd rather boost than a really good... Actually, maybe a better Torb could be better than Sim. I don't know, y'all. These are very, like, interchangeable. Tracer is, like, really underrated as far as damage goes, but this is a hard pocket tier list. As far as hard pocket goes, I've been burned by Tracer too many times. I think Tracer's probably the worst hard pocket character in the game. Maybe it's Brig, I don't know. I just find no reason to really pocket a Brig, hard pocket the whole game. Almost any other character would get more value. I'm not saying Brig is bad. But anyway, Tracer will get you killed in many situations because a good Tracer player, number one, should not be pocketed by a Mercy. But number two, like, if you're hard pocketing, and yet again, this is like hard pocket, she's gonna blink around too many corners. You're gonna lose LOS on her. You're gonna be in danger because of the Tracer, because she's very close range. You're also going to be in danger because the second she recalls, and she will, you will die, for the most part. Not saying I can't pocket a Tracer, but, like, it's really not optimal, so she's definitely probably bottom 3 worst pocket targets in the game. Okay, next up we have Widowmaker. Widowmaker, as far as hard pocketing goes, I actually think Widowmaker is pretty underrated. I say this about a lot of characters, but the thing is, you always hear, like, pocket the Pharah, pocket the Echo, pocket the Sojourn, pocket the Ashe, pocket the Soldier, pocket the Cass. You don't really hear hard pocket a Widow. But here's the thing about Widowmaker. Why I would actually say I'm gonna put her at the top of A tier, and this is a hard asterisk. Okay, hear me out, guys. Everybody's gonna talk about, oh, but what if the Widow's not hitting their shots? This is an optimal performance tier list. If the Widow is performing optimally, I think she is high A tier. Why is she high A tier? Number one, we're gonna get a little mathematical for a second. Widowmaker has a fall-off range. I don't know what the fall-off range is because I don't play Widowmaker. But what I do know is Mercy's damage boost effectively increases Widowmaker's fall-off. It essentially increases her range, so Widowmaker can actually take duels from an even longer range to deal the same damage, or it also lowers her charge time. Widowmaker can deal higher damage with her shots, so higher body shot damage, higher headshot damage. She also can charge quicker, so if there's a character that's within range of Widowmaker and she's being damage boosted, she actually deals more damage so she doesn't have to charge up as long. Also, if you're dealing with a Widow 1v1, you can actually damage boost your Widow and tell them to take a longer range duel, and she will win her fights because of her longer range. Also, we haven't really talked about Resurrect this entire video, which I kind of just realized now because I'm very focused on damage boosting and healing. But, like, Resurrect is, like, very... Obviously, I'll go back to all these other characters. Pokey heroes also are helped with Mercy Pocket because they can be resurrected from a safer range. So obviously, Widowmaker, she's usually in a safe range. But I would go as far to say Widowmaker is not a very good res target for the most part because you would rather use res on a target with more HP that's less likely to die again because of low health and low, like, Widowmaker has lower HP, which means she can be one-shot easier by many more heroes. Therefore, res is wasted on Widow a lot more, which is why she's not an S tier, because you can res her and she'll immediately die again to, like, a one-shot by almost any hero. But why Widowmaker is a really good pocket hero is because if she's taking a duel against another Widow and she dies to a one-shot, guess what? You get to give her another try. And damage boosting can be really effective because it allows her to play at longer ranges. Also, Widowmaker is one of those heroes that, like, because she plays so far back and on these weird off angles, the problem with her is she usually doesn't receive a lot of healing, which means she can't be very proactive. If you pocket a Widow, it makes it so she can take aggressive off angles, not have to worry about hiding as much. She can be engaged in holding space and taking space. She can also increase lethality with Mercy Pocket. Also, it makes her more survivable against a Winston dive So even if a Winston dives her, if she doesn't die, you still keep that threat up of being one-shot, so teams won't push in as easily because Widow is not dead. So with that being said, Widow is high A tier. Number Winton. Coming up next, Winton. Segue Winton. Winton, I would say he's not a terrible pocket target. He usually can't leave you too easily as long as you're skilled with your movement. Is he better than these ones? Probably not. I would say he's about Roadhog level. I would say tanks are pretty similar, but I really like Winston for a few reasons. Number one, his bubble provides you a lot of safety. Number two, damage boosting his dive actually creates a lot of value. Winston is really good with damage boost because he's kind of like Moira, where he doesn't really have to aim crazy. He deals good, consistent chip damage. He's not the best though, because when you dive with him and stay with him, you are going to be in a lot more danger. He is also a big target, so your heal's not going to be quite as effective, but he's not terrible. I'd actually put Torbjorn higher than him. I'd probably put Sigma higher than him too. He's not bad. He's actually pretty good though, but like as a hard pocket, I think there are many better characters. Maybe I'll put Bap higher. I actually think Bap is pretty good in this list. We'll do that. Wrecking Ball? Dude, Wrecking Ball's gonna leave you. If you hard pocket this dude, you're gonna die. I like healing him and I like pocketing him, but you are going to die. I would say he's probably bottom 3. I love Wrecking Ball. I think actually Wrecking Ball is one of the best players to play with Mercy tank-wise, because you can be very hands-off with him, but this is in the, like, theoretically you follow him the whole game, you're going to die. Goodbye. Wrecking Ball will leave you, you will die, you will be in terrible danger, they will ask you why you're throwing. Wrecking Ball's pretty bad. I think he's worse than Brigitte because he will leave you. Next we have Zarya. Zarya is a very good pocket hero. Like, very good. I would say she's A tier. Not as high as these DPS heroes, but I would say she's A tier. Zarya is so freaking good. Zarya is an excellent pocket target for a few reasons. Number one, she's not the largest hitbox out of all the tanks, so she doesn't require quite as much healing. She still will require a lot though, but still really good. Number two, she's a hero that the more you pocket her, the more value she will bring. The longer she stays alive, the more she builds up her beam charge, which then means she deals more damage, which means damage boost has more value, exponentially providing output of help to Zarya and your team. Number two, Zarya is really good because she also can bubble you to keep you alive. Number three, Zarya can self-cleanse, so if you're healing her and she gets anti-nated, you don't have to worry about Suzu, or yeah, you don't have to worry about needing Suzu as much, so you can keep healing her for the most part. Mercy works really well with Zarya because you can help heal a lot of chip damage on Zarya, so that way she can conserve her bubble for momentous moments. Very helpful for that. She's really good at canceling out a lot of ultimates. Her being damage boosted really helps her steamroll enemies, and you can really become one with the Zarya to steamroll the enemy team. You will literally walk on them. You will be like a beam of mass destruction. It'll be hard to kill her, especially with a little Moth Mercy pocketing. So do pocket her, do a good job. She's obviously not the best because she lacks range and still is a tank, so she does sustain more damage than DPS, but she's still pretty good. Zenyatta, he's pretty good. He has good damage potential. You could make the argument he's like better than Torb. I would say when you're running Mercy Zen, it's fair game to damage boost almost anybody on your team. You should be healing a lot more, but if you're dealing enough damage, pocketing a Zen is pretty good. Now, actually, with the context of the tier list, I am going to change it, because if you're pocketing him the whole game, you're probably throwing because your team is going to need healing desperately. So, we'll move him a little bit lower. Ramatra's pretty good. He's very brawly though, so he's going to die. Ramatra's pretty good because he deals a mixture of ranged and close damage. He doesn't require the most healing with his form. He's also really good to damage boost his ultimate. Not as strong as I'd probably say these tanks. I would probably say he's right around here. I'd rather pocket a Ramatra than a Torb. I think these are still interchangeable. It really depends on the situation and which is a better player. They're interchangeable. Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver's pretty low. You're going to lose out on a lot of healing. Pocketing a Lifeweaver's not going to bring you the most value with his damage because you're really going to lose out on a lot of healing. I hate to say it. I love damage boosting Lifeweaver, but if you pocket him for a long time, your team is going to hate you and you're going to be miserable. Okay, Illari, she's pretty good. I think she's like BAP level. I actually think I'd rather boost an Illari than a Torb, which maybe means the BAP is better. They're about the same. because they're both supports that are hit scan that can deal high damage, so they're pretty interchangeable. I think a Sig is... it's hard though. I think a Sig is lower than them just because of his range. If he had higher range, he'd be higher than them, but I think for that reason, he's lower. But like, ultimately, if there's people closer to a Sig, I'd rather boost a Sig. But if you're pocketing the whole game, these two are going to pop off better. Mauga. I mean, this is a stupid character. I don't like Mauga. I mean, if you hard pocket him, it's very feast or famine. It really depends on the Mauga player. You could say that for any pocket target. But like, he has the potential to really melt other tanks, but like, Mercy doesn't really heal him well, so he's not as high as the other people. I'd probably pocket Mauga less than these guys. I mean, actually, I'd probably pocket them more because he kind of requires the pocket. Yeah, we'll leave him there. Venture, low tier as well. I'm going to probably reorder the last few. Venture's pretty bad because their dig is going to make you die. Same problem as Tracer, same problem as Moira, same problem as Mei. You're going to die. Pocketing a Venture is really fun, and they deal really great damage, but they're going to get you killed because of their dig. Juno, we don't really know enough about Juno. She's going to be alright because she's hit scan. She'll be better than probably a lot of C tier. She'll probably be somewhere up in B tier, probably not A tier. She'll be alright. She won't be crazy though. But yeah, that's that. Let me reorder really quick if I need to. I think these guys are pretty good. This is going to be a soft order. It's not hard order. I think A tier is pretty good. B tier. I think B tier is a very hard mix-up because you could make a case for any of these heroes. They're all very niche in how they play. They're very, like, interchangeable. I think, like, theoretically, Sombra could perform better than Orisa, but I think I'd probably rather pocket an Orisa. I think if we're talking about the potential of, like, what would win you more games, I think pocketing Orisa more would help you win more than pocketing a Zen. So yeah, that's my tier list chat. I appreciate you guys putting up with me and my itchy nose this whole time. Thank you so much for watching. This is the final, somewhat ordered tier list for best hard pocket characters in the game from a higher level Mercy player. I think you could make a case for any character in the game. Feel free to roast me in the comments if you really think that I ranked one of your favorite characters wrong, or if you think that a character may have been ranked too high. I don't know. I'm open to interpretation. I would love to talk to you guys about it, about what you guys think. I mean, Life Weaver's going to be lower just because, unfortunately. This is my final list. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all had a wonderful time. Check out my next tier list on Tuesday. Next Tuesday. I'm trying to post a tier list and stream a tier list every Tuesday. For the video at least. Check out my Twitch. I stream every Tuesday through Friday at 7 p.m. Central Time. Twitch.tv/sirenoboi. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you enjoyed. And thank you guys so much.